Start over again. Wednesday, May 8th. Taking a car ride to Charlestown to get some cigarettes. Got a couple things on my mind. It's starting to rain here. One is I just seen someone just sent me. It was actually Joe Donahue's. Rest in peace, Joe Donahue's Uncle Willie. Great guy. I still stay in contact with him here and there since Joe passed. You know, he'll give me updates on what's going on, and you know, which I appreciate. But he was really the only father figure that Joe had, and he's just a great guy. And he just sent me a thing from Fox 25 News. I don't know if it's just an article or if it was actually on the news. You know how I don't know if anyone remembers when they used to, like, yearly in the Herald, they used to do like the Dirty Dozen, and they'd do a sweep of guys with warrants, and they'd call them the Dirty Dozen, and just make guys look horrible. Like, these are the worst 12 guys in Boston, and they'd always throw like one white guy in there, you know, and you'd always know him. You know, I'd always know them, or guys that have been around would always know them. I remember one time it was fucking Al Shamshak, some idiot that we had a beat up in Billerica once, me and Adam Kelly. He was talking shit. I think Howell was one of the Dirty Dozen. But he just had a Howell case, fucking snatch and grab. Last thing he owed was for fucking stealing golf clubs and shit like that. Nothing stupid, but you know, Howell's a career criminal. They always wanted to take him off the street, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, so it was Brendan Houlihan. And, I forget how his name came up between me and Willie. But, so he got grabbed in Weymouth, which we know what he was doing in Weymouth, which would be still with the victim in his case, who he fucking strangled the fuck out of him. Did a bunch of other stupid shit. I forget what it was over. I was told what it was over. I wish I remember, but Brendan in the 90s was someone who, you know, was dangerous. And somebody you didn't want to do something stupid to, because it definitely, you know, stab you. But, we don't know what happened to Brendan. I mean, I think I do. I think when the kid, I think it was Rebel. I think the kid's name was Rebel. One of Skin Tight's dudes, during that big, serious race war in Walpole that dudes had before the Salty and Charlestown beef started. They were all on the same side against Skin Tight, who was just a serious fucking Nazi, racial Nazi nigga, like, you know, militant type. He's a BGF. I was at just in 10 block with him before I wrapped up. He found out I was from Charlestown and who I was, and was trying to get everybody against me and this and that. So anyways, Brendan came in and was in OU, was in the mods in Walpole, and it should have been on point. Like there's a race war going on. Serious. Like guys were getting hurt during that. Like, dude, it was knife play. Like it wasn't like, hey, let's fight. Like dudes, when dudes came through and you were not, like it was knife play, and dudes were moving in teams. Like a lot of guys got stabbed in that situation. Guys were like honestly certain guys were trying to kill each other. So Brendan came in and got he was on the phone, I think with Michael Fiddler's mother, and just wasn't paying attention. One of the ops was on the block, obviously found out who he was, and that was when they still had phones. The cops had phones on the block, and they were the heavy touch-tone phones that had the metal, like the heavy metal under, whatever you would call it, the guts under it were all metal, and the bottom was metal, and they were heavy, and it was a weapon. I don't know how they had them in a place that dangerous, and no one ever thought to use them. I think Keith Richardson was his name. Rebel, I think, was his nickname. But Rebel picked up the phone and smashed Brendan. Really, he got him good. Knocked him out. He was beating him while he was knocked out. He got a knife. Stabbed him a couple of times. But there was white guys that were there. There's a couple Fall River dudes, but that was the type of thing where it didn't matter where you were from. Somebody should have helped them, but they didn't. But he's never been the same since that incident. I think it kind of knocked the bitch right out of him. But it is what it is. You're supposed to be on point, and even after whatever whatever happens to your brain, like you still gotta handle your business after. Like you still have a lot of time left, and they shipped it to New Jersey after. They sent them to Trenton, and that's where Jeff Hardy's at. And Jeff Hardy's been there a long time. Jeff's obviously getting by just fine. New Jersey's a fucking tough state. You look at all the cities they got there: Jersey City, Trenton itself. There's a lot of dangerous cities in New Jersey that there's a lot of the whites are definitely outnumbered. They're definitely outnumbered in New Jersey. So I don't know how he fared New Jersey. Never gonna find out the truth, because after that point, the kid just had a lot of trouble. With the truth. Him and the truth really didn't go hand in hand. And I would tell people that, like, oh yeah, Brendan said this. And it doesn't really matter. You can't really take it. You gotta take that with a grain of salt. So anyways, we'll fast forward to when I come in. He came in 2003. They sent him back from Trenton, which he's lucky. I wouldn't want to be stuck in Trenton either. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Nobody does. Jeff makes the best of it. But he came back to Walpole, and I ran into him in Walpole, and he was just doing stupid shit. Drinking, taking beans. It got to the point where people had to stop giving him beans because he just didn't know how to act. And, but I was around him a lot for a long time, and basically my whole day. Even my buddy, he didn't do nothing like against the rules. And by against the rules in the joint, he didn't commit a sexual offense. He didn't rat on anybody at that time, and and sell beef, which is a big thing also. So like he still was a convict at that time. You know, he just lost a fight and someone got the better of him. You know, that happens. It wasn't like he got punked off. That's another. He never really got punked off, as far as I know. So, you know, I was around him. That was my partner. Everywhere he went, I went. You know, we were homeboys. You know, but I still did my thing. I worked on the whole bit. There really wasn't drugs around like that. Like my second statement. Thank God. I did a nice bit. It went by fast. You know, we drank a lot. I drank a lot. Like once, maybe twice a week at the most, here and there. But my main concern was working out and taking care of my body, eating right, working out, going to the gym. You know, they had hockey there at the time. We'd play hockey every other week. And, you know, we were cool, but, you know, that's when Walpole was a level 6. You know, things got tense at times, because, you know, that's just the type of place it was. If things happened, if things got serious. But luckily, I got out of there without picking up like any crazy extra time. I picked up one case and ended up doing 6 extra months. I picked up a case. I got arraigned in rental court for an assault and battery. But on a cop. But like there were so many situations where things like could have escalated so much worse, and it was mostly with cops. But okay, so let's keep going, because we're talking about him. I veer off to the left easily, because talking about certain things can get you talking about other things, and you'll mention one thing and get you mentioning a second thing that you could talk for 2 hours about. So back on him, I wrap up. I'm not out long. I come back. I see him in Concord, and sorry. I pick up a case and I end up 52-8. I end up in Concord, and then I pick up a case in Concord. I picked up a conspiracy case in Concord. So I got 52-8 to Susan Barnhouse, yeah, to the max, and he was still up there. I had 2 district court cases, but one was a mayhem, which it stayed in district court way too long because they couldn't indict me. The witness didn't show up to the grand jury. They couldn't find him, and that was on purpose. That there were people telling him, "You better not go to the grand jury," and you know, it wasn't just white guys neither, which was funny. Because, you know, my cousin went and told him, "You better not go," but there was other guys in the projects, black guys, bloods, that told him, "Hey, you know, you were wrong. You said something you shouldn't have to John," and he did what he had to do. So if you go to that grand jury, you better not show your face in these projects again. And so he didn't. So I mean, and during this is when I picked up, you know, the case Concord. So I ended up back up the max, and I ended up on the block with him, and he was just acting like a fliphead. And I seen, you know, some stuff happen that just was, you know, that just wasn't normal. And this was the stuff that ended up coming out after. There was a friend of mine who was like my real close partner up the max, and he got moved out of the block. Kid Richie Gardner, and he was trying to come back because it's the block. You know, they used to have a thing called the quay. It's like being classed in the joint and not out like you get classified in the state prison system, like out to other joints. But when you get quayed, that's when you get basically classified to a block. So like when you're quayed to a block, that's where you go every time. Especially when you're SDG'd or classified to a gang. And that's what we all were. I was SDG'd as a boyo, and they had Richie as basically like an affiliate. So N2, I believe it was the only block he really would go to. So they had him in L2 and they wouldn't move him. And they were telling him like, oh, we can't move you. And he was there way longer than he should have been. And they're like, listen, we can't move you. And basically, we can't tell you why. There's somebody over there that basically has you claimed as an enemy. And we can't move you until that person leaves. They're classed out. And when they leave, you can go back to N2. So, I mean, a lot of people that know what's what will know where I'm going here. The day that Brendan goes to Concord, they send Richie back to N2, and basically we're kind of telling him like, hey, who do you think it was? You know who it was. And then they showed us the letter. And from writing so many kites back and forth, you know, I knew they're right. So fast forward years later. Now this wasn't the only thing. I won't say their names, but a lot of people know who it is. They picked up a case out in Worcester, and so when guys were getting out that were boyos, there was one IPSA, inner perimeter security, that they're the ones that do the investigation on everything in state prison. And up the max, there's much more IPS than there are anywhere else, because there's more gang shit that goes on there. There's more shit that goes on there, more fights, more everything. So they need more IPS. So they basically put one IP member on each gang, and they had a certain IP that investigated us, the boyos. His name was Thomas, Ips Thomas. And you know what, he wasn't really like that bad. Like, he was actually, like, as far as Ips go, like, you know, really not bad on a scale of 1 to 10. He was, you know, like, as far as being a dickhead, we're like Shepherd. We'll classify there was a Ip Shepherd there who was just like a complete brick. Like, he was a 10 as far as 1 to 10 being a dickhead, and Thomas was like a 2 or 3. He didn't bust balls really. He was just doing, you know, he would just do his job. You know, he'd love you only if he had to, if someone higher up, one of his superiors, told him to. But he was the boyo Ip, so they had him, like, you know, on the outside. You know, boyos that got out and that would, you know, doing shit on the street. You know, cops, Boston police and state police were coordinating with this IP and getting information with this IP and da-da-da-da-da. So when these guys picked up a case together and got indicted and all that, somehow all types of paperwork from SBCC ended up in there. You know, not just their indictment, their grand jury minutes and all that, but like just in all their discovery and everything was IPS paperwork, like IPS paperwork on rats and stuff that were like CIs for them, telling on boyos, and in there was Brendan friggin' with that situation in particular, which we knew. I've never been wrong about, there's been times, like, even like past that, I had to go back to South Bay for a year and like call the kid a rat, like for a situation that I seen that I knew, because I've been around so long. When you see something and you know like something isn't right, and guys are like, yeah, I'm like, listen, watch. And then they ended up taking the dude out in the middle of the night, shipping him to Dedham, and they ended up firing a cop because he was bringing cell phones for dudes. And I'm like, what? I can't. You're telling me? Like, I fucking told you, you fucking idiots. You're trying to protect this dude. Like, C-dubs were trying to protect the kid. And I'm like, dude, the kid's a fucking rat. I don't give a fuck. Do what you want. But anyways, I've never been wrong, because when you observe and you watch people and you just know. I mean, that was a type of situation where they basically said it, but other things that went on, that was like, oh Jesus, that's funny. Knives getting found and people getting lugged. And so anyways, like, somebody rectified that with him, but you know, he's becoming undesirable. Went from somebody that was, you know, like 50 Cent said, back in high school, you was the man, homie. You know, and now you're not. And it's like, it's unfortunate. People just break the rules nowadays and just think like nothing of it. It ain't nothing. It's, you know, they don't think they're gonna get caught, especially when it's in the joint. You know, they think there's gonna be no paperwork behind that. 99.9% of jail rats don't get caught because there's no paperwork. Something like that was like a 1 in a million fucking chance that paperwork got into people's hands. And you know, that's just shitty luck for him, but that's karma. You know, karma. Like, you're telling on your friends, dude, over a job. He did it to get Richie fired from a job, to get him logged so he can get his runner's job. And he had just started talking to this girl who ended up being his wife. The girl Julie ended up being his wife, who Coleman McDonough, a friend of mine as well, we were all friends, we're all in the same block together, just basically had whoever gave the number to us. It was like, here, call her. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, she's just some broad I used to bang, who sends me money, comes visit me here, and I don't care what you do. And he just started calling her and falling in love with her. And then he had her. He's such a pathological liar. Within like a month or two, she was visiting like every visit day, and had people thinking. People were coming into their visits, like, that were in the block with us, and were like telling their people that, you know, people's girls and shit. Like, she was talking to people's girls out in the visits, and they were coming in to visit their boyfriends that were, you know, convicts, and saying, yeah, she's telling me that he's a fucking he runs Charlestown, he's a mob boss, and this and that. And like, she fucking like believed it, like ate it up, you know, because his father was John Houlihan. Like, he, in his head, he like basically made up the story of John Houlihan and told the broad Julie. Like, she fucking ate it all up and basically was like, you know, found it sexy. And within fucking like 6 months, they were getting married. Which is crazy. Like, he lived on the phone. After that, once he met her, he lived on the phone. And my wife, Lorraine, worked at Nashua Street for a short time, and he came in and he made a statement to her, like, yeah, I never use the phone, I don't do phone bits. And I'm like, oh my god, like, she told me that, and I'm like, dude, this kid did more of a phone bit than anyone I ever met. But like, he literally, he knows that's my wife, like, and we're like distant cousins. My first cousin's his first cousin. Like, you know, like, I know his mother. Like, I was very close with his sister, you know, before she unfortunately lost her mind. But like, we were very close friends. Is the closest female I had as a friend was her. Like, we were very close friends. I shared like everything with her. Like, I could call her and tell her whatever I had going on, and because she was cool like that. Like, Katrin was cool. She was like a dude friend, you know, you could share. And like, that's how I was, like, with his family. But this is what I'm getting to a point here. Like, he knows, like, that's my wife. Like, and he fucking, like, I'm like, make sure he knows, like, have respect, don't ask for nothing stupid. And like, some crack must have come in, Nancy was straight, and like, he asked her for a lighter, like, hey, this is crack on the block, will you give me a lighter? Like, just fucking have no respect. But that's enough about that. So he sent me that, I seen that, and it's like, you gotta go back, you know, he's been in and out his whole life, like, fucking learn, you know, at some point, I don't know how people don't get tired, you know, just don't get tired, or just like, if people either just go do this forever, or end up dying, or you get it, like some of us are, you know, we're getting it, and it's like, power to us, and there's a way out. We're doing this. Talk about things that people don't normally talk about, you know, fucking feelings and shit like that. Like, we didn't grow up fucking saying, hey, I don't, you know, I feel uncomfortable and this and that, and you know, I don't really want to talk about this, or I want to talk about this because I think it'll make me feel better. Like, come on, like that was like literally the last thing we would ever do. We just would joke with each other and act like everything was alright, no matter how fucked up we felt, you know. And I want to touch on the last video I did. I was talking about the night terrors, you know, I had, and eventually they started like subsiding. After being out for so long, you know, I wrapped up in 2017 out of DDU, and after being in segregation so long before I got out, like, that was tough, reintegrating to society after, you know, not having any real contact with people. And I wrapped up off, I was on what the hell status they call it, where you come out all shackled up, even in rec, because I had cut the cage on somebody, so I couldn't even come out for rec and get the cuffs taken off. So like, I was like on like fucking Hannibal Lecter status, except they didn't put the thing on my face, because I wasn't a spitter or a biter. I wasn't someone who did stupid shit like that. But I haven't really like been having night terrors like that lately. I'll have one here and there, but dude, last night, it's crazy how something, just mentioning something triggers. I had multiple crazy fucking night terrors last night, where I woke up in my sleep punching myself, punching the bed, just punching in the air, yelling, screaming, getting stabbed in my dream, and just crazy shit, bad shit happening, just from talking about it. And I know it was from the conversation that triggered it. That didn't just happen out of nowhere, because it was one of the worst night terrors I've had in a long time. It was one of the worst night terrors that I've ever had. It was bad. Lorraine was like, oh my god, what the fuck? And you know, I didn't even get into telling her like what my whole video was on, and you know, kind of like that triggered it. And I need to like, because like, I've had issues with communicating with her, and I need to start like having open communication with her and telling her, hey, this is what I did the video on. It was talking about this, and it definitely triggered something. And both fights were with Jerry Sullivan. You know, which is what crazy, because, you know, we do have issues because of what happened, and, you know, because he definitely should have been on the outs, and should be on the outs for bringing in a rat, I don't care if it's his son, he didn't have to make him a boyo, writing my then girl and telling on me about everything I ever did that she wouldn't want to know. She sent me the letter. I don't know what he thought. I don't know, like, he was obviously also trying to, hopefully, that he could pull her too, like he did with Chad's girl, his closest friend at the time, who just, one of the worst things that's ever happened to somebody that I know of I've ever seen in my life happened to Chad, and I'll touch on that next video. We're gonna talk about Chad Connors, because what happened to him, when I tell you, you know, you'll really, people that see this video are gonna be like, oh my God, like, is that even real? Because it's almost like, it's so unfair what they did to him. You know, they didn't play by the rules when they did what they did to Chad, who did nothing but close the curtain and got a life sentence for it. Okay, bye.